Yeah, we got Carl in Oklahoma. Hello, Carl?
Hi.
Hi, you got Matt and Don here. How are you?
Hi, Matt. Great. How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad.
What do you got for us today?
Well, actually, I'm open to any questions you have for me. I'm a non-denominational Christian.
Okay. Well, that's kind of interesting because this is a call-in show, and the question we ask is, what do you believe, and why do you believe it?
I believe in God, obviously.
Okay, why? And you probably have to define God because there's thousands of different versions of Christianity that disagree on everything. But
well,
so give us a rough description of the God you believe in, and then you can explain why.
Okay. Well, God is the one who created the whole universe, who created you and me, and He is the only God that I know that has a son, besides Greek mythology. But anyways,
so we're already into really weird territory because you say that God is the only God you know of that has a son. How many gods do you know of?
I don't believe in any other gods, but there's other gods that are considered gods, but they're actually false gods.
Okay. How did you determine that yours is the true God and that the other gods are false gods?
Because they're not real. They're actually...
Seriously? They're not real. That's how you determined it. How did you determine yours was real? See, the question had two parts of why do you not believe these other gods and why do you believe this?
Yeah.
And if your reason for believing this is because the other ones are wrong, that's a fallacy.
Yes.
Okay.
You're right.
So,
well, what's the way I explain it? Yes.
So why do you believe?
Well, number one, it starts with faith, and two.
Why would you believe anything? We're done at number one. We're done at number one. Why would you believe anything?
Faith is a good way to be wrong.
Is there any position? Is there any position that I couldn't take based on faith?
Is there any position that you could not take based on faith?
Right. If you begin with faith, couldn't I believe all those gods you just dismissed, or couldn't I pick one of those gods you dismissed and believe it based on faith as a primary foundation?
You could, yeah.
Sure. So doesn't that mean that faith is not a good foundation for determining what's true or not true?
Not so.
That's not what it means. So faith can be used to both believe a true thing and a not true thing, and you think that this doesn't demonstrate that faith is an unreliable path to truth?
Well, the Bible says that faith pleases God. Jesus said to Thomas...
I asked a different question. I don't know why you're going to the Bible at all. We're talking about the foundations of epistemology here, about how we determine what is likely to be real. And if your method, your primary method of faith, can lead you both to something that is true and something that's not true, then doesn't that mean that faith is an unreliable path to truth?
No.
I don't understand. If I can flip a coin to make a decision and it can lead me to the correct decision and an incorrect decision, doesn't that mean that flipping a coin is an unreliable path to the correct decision?
Okay, so...
That was a yes or no question.
If you turn your phone...
That was a yes or no question.
Okay, what was the question again?
If I can flip a coin, and based on its outcome, it can lead me to a correct decision and an incorrect decision, doesn't that mean that flipping a coin is an unreliable method to reach the correct decision?
True.
Okay.
Substitute the word faith for coin and answer the same question.
Because you've already acknowledged that faith can lead you to Yahweh and can lead me to Zeus or any of 100 other gods. If faith can lead to any of those conclusions, then how is it a reliable pathway to truth if it can lead me? By the way, let's say there's 1,000 different proposed gods, and only one of them's real. And we can use faith to get to any of them. Then you've got a 1 in 1,000 shot, which is way worse than a coin toss, of getting the correct position based on faith, right?
But there's tens of thousands of gods.
So now does that demonstrate that faith is not a reliable path to truth?
Well, there's also proof. You have proof also.
Hang on.
Let's finish this point, and then we can move on to the next one.
I'll let you go. I'm not just going to hang up as soon as you acknowledge that faith is a crappy path to truth. I just would like you to acknowledge that the argument's been made and that you agree with it.
Okay.
So is faith a reliable pathway to truth?
To some, no, but to others, yes.
Why are we hedging here?
No, we're done. I promised I would let you go on, but all right. So faith can sometimes lead you to truth.
Correct.
And faith can sometimes lead you to something that's not true.
Yes.
Which means that faith is not a reliable path to truth, right?
You can't just rule faith out like that, though.
The fuck you can.
Okay.
I'm sorry that logic. I'm sorry that logic demolishes your position, but that's not our problem. The problem I'm having now is that when you've been exposed to a syllogism, to a illogical position that shows that your foundation is flawed, instead of acknowledging it, you want to come up with an ad hoc, you can't get rid of faith that way.
It's dishonest.
It's incredibly dishonest to have your position demonstrably shown to not be reliable, and you acknowledge this and then want to try to rehabilitate it. Now, you're welcome to make an argument for faith is reliable, why faith is reliable in your case. Mm-hmm. But if you aren't willing to acknowledge that faith isn't reliable generally, then I don't know how we continue.
Any one-sided argument sounds good if it's one-sided. I haven't got to speak yet.
Oh, you're wrong. Any one-sided argument doesn't sound good. You presented a one-sided argument and we demolished it. Now you can go on to present another one-sided argument because you said we begin with faith, and faith is not a reliable pathway to truth.
You presented an argument and I answered questions. There's a difference.
No, I presented a response to your argument and you dodged the answer over and over until I held your feet to the fire. You wanted to go to the Bible. You wanted to go to any other thing other than answering the question about epistemology, which is completely independent of any religion. How do we reliably find a pathway to truth? Is faith a reliable path to truth?
That was a question for you.
Is faith the reliable path to truth?
I didn't say the, I said a, but I'll go with either one.
Okay. Not always.
Okay, do you understand what not always means?
Sometimes, and sometimes it does.
So therefore it's not reliable, right?
So then it's not reliable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Next.
Sometimes we got to parse the sentences here.
Jesus.
Hey, listen to me though. Listen to me though. If you turn on your phone,
my phone's on.
It turns on. Okay, but why do you think the phone will turn on though?
Because it did the last 10 million times you turned it on.
Yeah.
But how do you know for sure it's going to turn on?
You don't know for sure. You don't know anything for sure. When I push the button,
what do you have?
Carl, when I push the button on my phone, I'm not in any way saying I know for sure this phone will turn on. Because you know what? Sometimes it doesn't. What I'm saying when I push the button on my phone is I have a reasonable expectation of how likely my phone is to turn on based on how many times in the past it has turned on and how many times it hasn't, and that the world continues to be roughly consistent. But I'm not expressing absolute certainty at all. I am apportioning my confidence level in something to the evidence that supports us. This is what Hume taught us about epistemology. The wise man proportions his belief to the evidence. So you want to use this example of how do you know your phone's going to turn on? Well, I'm not saying that I know my phone's going to turn on if you require absolute certainty. What I'm saying is, based on all the information I have, there's a very strong likelihood that my phone will turn on. And you know what? When it doesn't turn on, I don't go, it's a miracle.
God must have done it.
I go, damn, the battery must be dead. There must be something wrong.
There's also an equivocation going on here. You know, when we're talking faith, we're talking belief in something without sufficient evidence. If you've got evidence, present that. You know, if you've got a solid reason, faith is the reason people give when they don't have good evidence.
Yeah, there's no faith involved here. As a matter of fact, we can take my phone and we can put it in a laboratory setting and we can turn it off and we can turn it on and we can do this over and over again and we can determine how reliable this phone is, plus or minus some error percentage, and that is how confident we should be in the reliability of turning the phone on.
Phones exist, on-off.
Here's a question. How many times have we demonstrated that a God actually exists?
We haven't demonstrated yet.
So, I can demonstrate that my phone turns on at least once. I can demonstrate that it turns on repeatedly. I can put together a probabilistic assessment of my phone. Can we do any such thing for God?
You're comparing natural things with supernatural things.
No,
so they don't
I
go
asked
together.
a question. Can I do any such thing for God?
What was the question again? I'm focused on what I have to say. So
Your answer is
apologize.
no, which is why you objected by saying I'm comparing natural things to supernatural things. But here's the dirty little secret, Carl. I didn't bring up the phone. You did. You're the one that is trying to falsely compare supernatural things to natural things, as if there's no distinction, as if the faith in the God belief is the same as the faith that I'm turning my phone on. And that is a false equivalency. That's why I asked the question, please, have we ever demonstrated that a God existed?
We have not yet.
Correct. And if we haven't demonstrated this yet, what possible reason could one have to believe that a God does exist?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, that was actually a question. Yeah, I understand. Doesn't really answer that question. What possible reason could we have to believe that something is true when we have no demonstration of it?
Well, you don't know until it's demonstrated in front of you.
All right, but I didn't ask whether or not you knew. I asked what possible reason could we have for believing it until it's been demonstrated.
Well, if you rule out faith, you don't have a reason.
Correct. And here's the thing. You called us, and you believe. And you begin with a belief based on faith. And you acknowledge that faith isn't a path to truth. And you acknowledge that we haven't demonstrated that a God believed. And when asked what reason you have for believing it, you go back to faith. Do you not see the problem there?
I see the problem with your understanding.
Okay. What's the problem with my understanding then, since you see that?
Okay. So, if I pray to a God, through my faith, if I pray to God, and my prayer doesn't get answered, should I be discouraged? Or if your phone doesn't turn on, should you be discouraged that your phone doesn't turn on?
How is that in any way an explanation? How is this an explanation of what I don't understand, Carl?
Do what?
How is this an explanation? You said you see my failure in understanding, and I asked you what that was. And you begin with, if I pray and I don't get an answer, should I be discouraged? How is that in any way an explanation of what I don't understand?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Thanks, Carl.